Hi participants. This little video is to give you an overview of what you will be getting in the mail and what the BrainWorks kit will look like and how you can use it. This is the file folder, the BrainWorks file folder that you're going to be receiving in the mail. We have about 110 picture cards that are included with this. Online, we have even more that you'll have access to as well. There will be an online digital account for participants to use for the length of this research study. But in the mail, you will be getting our first original set of cards and this file folder. And you will have to do some simple assembly, which will include putting this tachometer through and then putting Velcro dots on the back of the cards that you choose to use with your child. The BrainWorks system is based on the colors of the stoplight. We have a long time used in the therapy world the analogy of how does your engine run, which was introduced to us by the ALERT program for self-regulation, and compared our sensory engines to the speed of a car. Is your engine going too fast and you're about to crash? Are you too slow and sluggish and you need a little push to get going in the right direction? Or is your sensory engine speed at the just right speed where you can focus on what's most relevant and filter out everything that's less relevant? In keeping with that analogy, I have used the colors of the stoplight for BrainWorks. So if you are on red, this means you're feeling slow and sluggish. You might be daydreaming, feeling lazy. In that case, kids need to be encouraged to open up the folder and select the green arrow activities. Each of these activities has a green arrow pointing up, which means this is going to help you get going, perk up, and be alert. After engaging in the green activities, these kids who were on red should start seeing their sensory engine move more toward yellow. Yellow is our goal. Just like at a yellow light, you can proceed with caution. You can go if it's acceptable and appropriate, and you can also come to a stop if need be. Yellow is where we want to see the kids end up after engaging in sensory activities. The kids can choose a number of activities. If you have a while for a sensory break and they're really lethargic, you might want to say, choose 4 or 5 green activities, green arrow activities, move them to the outside, and then this becomes like a schedule strip for them to follow. So you're making sure that they're making good choices. And then you say, good choices, now go and meet your needs. So for many of these, they might be able to be independent in the sensory activities. And then for others, they will require more of your involvement. Now, other times, kids will find themselves on just right, which is awesome. If you ever can tell that your child's already at the just right speed, that would be a good time to pull out the BrainWorks tool and show them what that looks like. You know, you might say, I can tell that you're at the just right speed right now because you are focusing really well on your homework and you're not paying attention to the sounds your brothers and sisters are making. That's great, and that's how we want your sensory engine to function most of the time. Now, at other times, your child might be on green. Green is a couple of different things. Green is your engine is going too fast. At a green light, you can go. But going too fast leads to a little bit of out of control feelings too. This happens in 2 different cases. Our over responders their brains are going too fast. Everything's too loud, too bright, too fast, too tight. They feel very overwhelmed by everything happening around them. Their brains are thinking about 10 different things at once, not prioritizing the sensory information well. So their sensory engines are on green, and they need to be encouraged to open this up and choose the red arrow activities. See the red arrow pointing down right here in the corner. These activities are going to help them calm down, slow down, and relax. Those are the kinds of terms you can use to explain the effect these activities will have on their sensory systems. So the child might choose 2 or 3 or 5, depending on the time that you have to devote to this, calming activities and move them to the outside, and then that becomes like a visual schedule strip for them to follow while meeting those sensory needs. Those are for the over-responsive kids. Typically, at that time when a child's feeling over-responsive, they look a little agitated, nervous, overwhelmed. So you can tell by their affect too that they're feeling over-responsive at the moment. Another set of kids also finds themselves on green. And those are our sensory seekers. They are literally going too fast. They're running and jumping and spinning and crashing, and their sensory engine's literally fast at that moment. They're going too fast and they need to slow down. So the way for them to do that is a little bit different. The other two groups of kids have chosen the opposite color. Over responders on green need to choose red. Under responders on red need to choose green. Now our sensory seekers are a little bit different. They're already on green because they're running and jumping and spinning and crashing. But the best way to help them meet that need is through choosing green activities. The easiest way to explain this to our sensory seekers is to say your gasoline tank has too much gasoline in it, and the quickest way to burn off some of that extra gasoline will be through our green arrow activities. Remember the really high threshold level that we talked about? Our sensory seekers have that sky-high threshold level for sensory input that will allow that information to be registered appropriately. And the quickest way for us to reach that threshold is through the green arrow activities. It's helpful to remember that both our passive under responders, the kids who tend to be a little passive, lethargic, sedentary, and our sensory seekers, both of these kids have under responsivity to sensory input overall. And so they have they have the same treatment needs or sensory needs, which will be the green arrow activities. I hope that makes sense. So that's how you use the file folder, and after completing the activities, it would be good to have the child once again identify his sensory speed, his or her. You'll be able to tell they're on yellow when they're calm, somewhat calm, typically calm, focused, able to interact with you, able to attend to whatever needs to be attended to at the moment. So that's a good time to point out, look what we did. You know, we engaged in green arrow activities and now you're at that just right speed. Or we engaged in the calming activities, the red activities, and look how good you're doing now. Just to reconfirm for them that the sensory strategies are helpful for their brains. One other thing I want to show you is the schedule strip. If you are selecting a target activity that is typically seen as part of a routine, like getting ready for school or transitioning from school to home or getting ready for bed, something like that, I highly encourage you to use the schedule strip in addition to the BrainWorks file folder. The BrainWorks file folder should be used throughout the entire day as needed or even as a proactive way of preventing behaviors from occurring. But the schedule strip will be based around the particular routine that tends to be troublesome for your child. For example, this child had difficulty getting up in the morning to get ready for school. He tended to be slow and sluggish and needed a lot of input in order to get those gears turning in his brain. So the night before, Sam and his mom will set up the sensory schedule. Sam's mom will put on the non-negotiable items. You have to get out of bed, you have to get dressed, and later you have to get on the school bus. This is a short version of a schedule strip. For many kids who are a little bit older, you could probably have as many as 10 items on a strip. And then the night before, Sam would choose the sensory activities to intersperse throughout the way. Sam did really well with the yellow arrow activities that are mostly proprioceptive in nature to get him going. Some kids need the really alerting green arrow forms of sensory input in the morning, and that's okay too. But Sam would also often choose to cuddle and have a book read to him right after he got out of bed, and then he liked to play some type of crawling activities. You could even make this crawl around the living room and back to your bedroom. Next you get dressed. And then he chose to do some stretch and tug play while he waited on breakfast to be fixed. Something like that. So he is able to make some choices to build into his routine. This also helps him. He disliked getting dressed, didn't like putting clothes on, didn't like wearing clothes even once they were on. But by doing this, he was able to see, yes, I have to get dressed, but after that, I get to do this activity. And because this is mostly proprioceptive in nature, it's going to help his system be able to get used to the clothing that's a little bothersome to him at the time. Proprioceptive activities that are like heavy work, deep pressure, things where we really have to use our muscles, are very organizing to our nervous systems and help us be more accepting of the sensory input that we're getting. So if you're doing something that's routine-based or a behavior that's commonly seen around a certain task, then I really encourage you to use the sensory strip in addition to the BrainWorks file folder. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.